Okay, so I was just thinking, OMG, I did it again. Because I do it all the time as usual. I forgot the main point. And it's really annoying because, like, when I had the mouth after daydreams and stuff, and the inner dialogue about what I'm gonna say, like, I know what I want to say, but then once I start recording, I forget everything. But I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before. This even goes back into how, like, people have this idea about how things are gonna be one day, or once they escape their abuse situation. In fact, that's what I was supposed to be getting at, but then I forgot when I was talking about the whole people think they're just gonna get out here and get a job, or they think that, like, at least once they turn 18, as soon as they turn 18, they're gonna get a job, and that's really not how things go. So, I was gonna say, it's like people have this idea in their head, and you think that things go a certain way, and like you like even think that people that are just even a year or 2 years, whatever, older than you are like so much older and like all that. But then it's like once you get to those ages, or just like even once you just like get out your abuse situation, you realize that the reality is that you're still just a abused and traumatized, neglected kid trying to figure stuff out. And then that's what I really wanted to get at. It's like people, because of people's pride, people like to have this idea that like they figure things out. Nobody really ever figures out jack diddly. People are just still the abused, traumatized, and neglected kid trying to figure things out. Or maybe like they're the 1%, they had like a decent, I mean, everybody goes through some type of trauma, but maybe they had like a decent family system, and like they didn't have the usual crazy culty human trap Ramco gate/gifted program bullcrap happen to them, but they're still just like trying to figure things out like everybody else is. And then I think that's really it. Okay, so I have like 2 other videos that I was supposed to edit, but I haven't done anything because it's been cold and I've been like working on a lot of other stuff that I have to do. But I don't know, I guess it doesn't really matter because like there's just lurkers, and in the end I still make these videos for really just me and people I know who are in these situations. But for just in case anyone else sees this, that's just like what I want people to know. I'm kind of starting to dissociate. Not because of anything bad though, just because blood sugar. But I guess that's not really a good reason either. But anywho, what was I gonna say? Crap. Hold up. Okay, so this could be a part 2 to my video about, my video titled Why Turning Red is My Favorite Movie. This could also be like a part 2, I guess, to my last video about the good sides. Wait, the good part about escaping abuse, whatever it was titled, I don't even know, but that video where I talk about like the good side, also like the downside, because it's kind of like when you're in like a really, really bad situation and you're like hoping to get out of it one day and to finally escape or just get thrown out. Like when it comes to culty type stuff and the human cash cow systems, it's like when you finally get out, you just, you don't really know what to do anymore. I mean, I'm not saying that like, of course, me and other people who have done this didn't have plans, but it's also kind of like you start to realize how unrealistic all the plans you had on how you were going to like do the stereotypical stuff and quote unquote get your life together, or what people like to say, get your SHIT together. You have those plans, but it's like once you get out here and like you realize that you're still, not that I didn't expect it, but like when you really realize that you're still seen as like a piece of crap because you were in your previous situation, but now you're just a quote-unquote bum or whatever, and all the things that go along with that, and the treatment and the different like extra issues and discrimination that goes along with that, you start to realize more and more that like your plans weren't realistic and probably won't work out, at least not how you wanted it to. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but what point was I getting at with that? I mean, I don't know what I was about to say, but I think like, okay, hold up, no, let me just pause this because I can't really remember what I was gonna say. Okay, like for example, which I talk about in my, don't know what that was titled either, but I'll put it in the description. I know it's also about escaping abuse, and in that video I mentioned like how a lot of people, they have this idea in their head that like they're gonna get out here and get a job. One, you can't do that if you're a missing person. There could be a lot of issues with that revolving around ageism, and then if people realize their situation, they may be wanting to like get nosy or start snitching to like police or CPS, depending on how trifling they are, and just a lot of weird stuff that I came in contact with, which I don't know, it's just so much discriminatory stuff. When people don't want to hire you, they'll make up a lot of different reasons, and they'll tell you a lot of different bull crap, from the ageism stuff to the whole you must be in a bad situation, which I mean, I got this stuff a lot throughout my life, even before I was out here. The idea that like because I liked working, that I must be in some type of situation because usually young people don't want to work. And it's like nobody really cares what situation somebody's in anyways. It's just people being nosy and trying to like, one, get into your business and look for something to report to get you in trouble and to get you put at risk, or hopefully with the racial side to maybe get your quote-unquote black parents in trouble, if that's even a possibility in your situation. But it's also like just another weird thing that people could say as an excuse for why they won't hire you. But I don't know, that's part of why, well, yeah, actually it is. That's part of why I liked entrepreneur stuff more. I always did, but like especially with this whole situation when I was a lot younger, like especially when I was 12, like there's this place I would go to and I would ask them to hire me, and they just keep telling me that I wasn't old enough. But it's like, I mean, realistically, they wouldn't even hire me now, I'm sure. But anyway, the point with that is that like a lot of people have this idea they're going to get out here, they're going to get a job, or they're going to find an under the table job, so that way they don't have to worry about like the risk with I don't know, age, not having vital records and different things like that. But I mentioned in some video that like one of the things about it is that there's a lot of racial stuff going on, that there's that side. Two, the fact that due to the fact that you're now homeless, you're going to be also treated bad for that, just like how you were treated bad and targeted in your previous situation. Now people are going to like want to discriminate about hiring you for that. And the unfortunate thing about it is that it's not about looking a certain type of way, or the things with the white addict projection and the idea that like everybody's on heroin or something. It's not even that. As I talk about, especially in my People Are Zombies, Why You're Targeted playlist or something like that, as someone said to me, it's really an energy you give off. And I call this energy orphan energy. And you actually get this energy off as well when you're in your previous situation, but you give off a different type that's still similar enough but different in a way when you're full-blown visibly homeless, and that's orphan energy. And when people sense that, that also tells them this is a person to treat like crap, to make a long story short. And so then jobs will act funny, and then they'll like crap, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, then they'll like start talking about a verifiable address. Since when do any jobs, especially like lower level bull crap, even like really care to get a verifiable address? Like you need to bring in mail or something, like their I don't know, the DMV or whatever. Like things like that are only brought up and asked about when you're in a certain situation, or in certain situations, or at least they think you are. And it's like, I don't know, it's just even similar to the whole street kids aren't seen as kids thing. Like people expecting more out of you because you're in a situation that they consider bad or worse. So because you have no support, they expect you to have more things than they would even expect out of somebody way older than you. And then another side to it is that well, I don't know, because I don't really remember what I was getting at with that either. But I guess to get more to the point that I wanted to talk about, similar to the turning red video, which I really wish I'd remember this whole situation, because I could have threw this in here too. Back when I was in Cali, I had met a lot of homeless foster kids, and there's this one girl, and she had just recently turned 20 when I met her. And I remember she was like, I just turned 20 and I have no business being this old. I literally just learned like basic hygiene recently. Because of course she grew up in foster care, getting neglected and thrown around and well over 100 foster homes. In fact, most foster kids are put in more than 100 foster homes by the time they're 4 years old. And of course that causes all types of personality disorders, especially BPD, but even other ones. That's why I always used to say, like, if you already have BPD type issues and attachment issues that go along with that, you do not want to even try to fight your way into CPS, which probably won't work anyways. But anywho, that's another video. But she said that, and that even makes me think about like all the other people I know that have said things like they really don't know what to do and they're scared to get older because they didn't expect to survive their situation as long as they have. And they didn't even expect to get to the age that they're at now. I mentioned in the Turning Red video and a couple other ones, the girl that was like, I'm turning 17 next year and that sounds serious and I'm scared, and different stuff like that pretty much. And I even have some screenshots in there of a couple different things, and my foot's falling asleep as usual. But anywho, so I've been talking a lot about as well my midlife crisis, and it's like, I don't know, it just even goes back to the thing that I say. People always say this whole there's help and get help, which of course, as I always talk about, none of that is true. You have to save yourself, or at least we have to save ourselves until we save each other. But one of the things that I really started to realize a couple years ago is that the things that I really need help with aren't things that other people can help me with anyways. Like, people, I mean, everybody experiences it, because like realistically there's no such thing as like a kid, a child, an adult. People are just like doing what they're told to do and being what they were told they had to be at different ages to try to survive. And there's no such thing as a kid or a child, more so for many reasons. There's definitely actually a such thing as a kid, because the word kid means a sacrificial goat or lamb or something like that anyways. And yeah, that's definitely what it is. And then this is probably going to be all over the place and not make much sense. But another thing that I've been thinking about as well lately, it's like how I went from being in a place where, like, when I would tell people how old I am, they would tell me that I'm lying, which I still feel like was bullcrap and an excuse to call the police on me for no reason, which they would have done anyways. But going from being in a place where people would tell me I'm lying about my age and that I'm really 11 or 12, to being in a place now where people automatically assume that I'm 38 and stuff like that. And typically the youngest that people assume I am is 27 or 28, but more so people really like think I'm 38. Dude, the denial stuff, the American Pride stuff that I mentioned pretty often, especially my video about why Americans hate Mark Leda. Then I go over how, like, people would talk junk to people like Mark Leda, and obviously he's predatory. Like, what interview channel like his that's running around recording people isn't predatory? Like, he's probably a reptilian. But still, the point is, Americans just don't want their dirty laundry out there. That's the only reason that they hate Mark Leda. That's the only reason. Like, somebody can go make a documentary about homeless kids in the quote-unquote Middle East or in Africa, and people be like, oh my gosh, this is so sad. But when people record homeless kids in America, people just say things like, oh, they're a runaway, they just need to go home. Oh, they just did something to get kicked out. Stop recording minors. Or if the person isn't a minor, they'll still do the whole they just need to go home thing because they're a kid and they're being bad. And it's really interesting because it's like, I mean, the homeless kids in other countries are also kicked out or runaways or orphans, and their parents are like actually passed away or whatever. I mean, crap, like I mentioned pretty often, my dad had this girlfriend that had this one daughter. And while I don't like the normal term, as I mentioned before, wherever I mentioned this, that one daughter was actually somebody that's considered normal by societal standards. but the mom didn't like her. And she liked the other two kids because I guess they didn't do things that are considered normal, like have friends and like have or want to have boyfriends. Like, well, one was a boy anyways, but they just like sat in the room and played video games, or at least one played video games all day. And they didn't even eat or use the bathroom or anything, really. They never left the room. And then the other one would just, like, put peanut butter in her toes and had the dog flicking peanut butter off her toes in her room. But the mom hated the daughter that was actually able to, like, go out and have friends and work a job and stuff. And that was interesting, because that's not typically how scapegoating goes, but that's kind of besides the point. And, so the daughter had been living with, like, other people. She even had other friends in other states that she would live with. How she met them, I don't know, but I don't know what to say about that. So, like, she had already been on her own. She was 12 at this point in time. She'd already been on her own, living with different people. And before she was even 18, not that I believe the whole 18 is a magic age American bullcrap, but even before she was, like, a quote-unquote legal adult, supposedly, both of her parents had already passed away from cancer, which is interesting because that just shows patterns of, like, traumatized people that have been through narc abuse or Jezebelic abuse and have become Jezebels themselves, and how, like, they get together and they both end up with cancer. And you can get it from you get it from being abused, but then it can, like, get worse, especially if you, like, stay in the patterns that make your situation worse. But that's a whole other video as well, I guess. But anywho, like, she had already been on her own, but then she also became a full-blown literal orphan because both her parents died. And there was that. I forgot what I was supposed to be getting at with that. But I know I mentioned it to make some point. Oh, crap. But anywho. Oh, yeah, I forgot to say, though. No, I was getting at the point that, like, people are going to want to assume that you're way older than you are. There's also the pride side and the Not in My America side. Well, the pride side is the Not in My America side. And then, what else is it? I don't know, it's just really weird, though. And, like, yes, some of the people that are, like, play this game are, like, sexual predators, but it's also the side that, like, also, like, when I was in the West Coast or just certain places with, like, mostly quote-unquote white people, they also seem to, like, not really know, because they're not really around many, that, like, melanated people, especially, like, quote-unquote black people, typically look, like, way younger than they really are anyways. Although there's no such thing as really looking at age, but, I mean, there's still that side. So, like, that's part of it, I guess. But, like, here, I guess, since, like, people say the whole quote-unquote black don't crack thing, they automatically assume that, like, I'm, like, way older than I am, and that I just look young like everybody else does, pretty much. Although I don't really think I look young, I think I just look sick more so, but I don't know. But it also, it's just, like, what people would rather believe, but it's, like, it's still weird, though. But the point I'm getting at, though, with that is that the fact that people have been saying this to me, like, all the time since I've been where I'm at now in the South, it kind of scares me, though, because, like, I don't know why my mind goes to this place, but it scares me and it makes me think, am I still going to be this way, like, mentally and physically by the time I'm 38? Because it's like, I mean, if they think I'm 38, do they think that I'm, like a really delayed and, like, underdeveloped 38 year? I mean, I guess they would have to if they think I'm 38, but I mean, like I've always said, though, especially back, like, with the whole, oh, you're secretly 11 or 12 thing, I would still be like, I mean, I would be really small for any age that you could accuse me of being, because, I mean, most 9 and 10 year olds are bigger than I am, so, I mean, that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. But it's still, like, a scary thought that, like, my mind goes to whenever people say, oh, I would assume that you're, like, 38. Now, I did learn okay, that threw me off. I did learn many wait a minute, I gotta try to get my train of thought back. I did learn like some years ago that, what was I even about to say? Okay, I remember now. So, some years ago I did realize that when you're really quiet and you're actually like really developmentally delayed to where like you can't really hang out and have a conversation with people your age, you're just like you're just on different levels, like developmentally delayed, but still like I'd rather say wiser. I don't even like the whole smart label. I guess I could say quote unquote wiser or whatever than even most people in general. You like there's like a divide, so you can't really like hang out or talk to like people that people would assume would be on your level. Not that I really like these terms, but I don't know how else to put it, because I'm not trying to like, I don't know, be insulting or whatever to people. Not that I care too much, but I just don't want this to like sound, well, I don't want to start off with explaining it either, oh my gosh. But okay, so anywho, there's also a side where like if you're really isolated and you're not really around people your age, people also like watch you from a distance and they'll assume they're like, oh, you're way older than you really are because you're doing this or you're doing that or you're really quiet, and like people assume that like, oh, you must be older because you're quiet, or you must be older because, you know, you don't talk to people who are I don't know, 16, 17, 21, whatever. You only talk to people, or I only ever see you talking to people that are 30, 40, 60, so I guess maybe you are that age too, or you're in this situation, so I assume that you're like this age. And there's also that side, and I learned that even way before I was out here, that to get people to think that you're quote unquote mature, which I don't like that term anyways, just be quiet, and then people just assume that like you're mature and different things like that. Not that I really do it on purpose, I really had to and have to, but that's kind of besides the point. But I'm not gonna lie though, this is probably gonna be all over the place and not make much sense, but people assuming that I'm 38 really does like make my mind go to this place. If I'm still alive by then, am I still gonna like, I don't know. I know it may like be like a crazy thought to even think to people, like why would you think that you still be the same way physically and mentally that you are now by then. Although as far as the physical side, I mean, due to the fact that I have iatrogenic metabolic issues and brain damage and stuff, I mean, it is very unlikely, and it's also unfortunate that I really would like gain any weight. Well, I mean, I guess technically if I didn't gain weight, eventually I probably wouldn't even live even almost to 30, even 30 in general. So I mean, something would have to switch up real soon, or else I probably wouldn't even almost live till 38. Because I mean, since I can't gain weight or muscle or any of that due to the health issues, then like it's just like, it's hard to explain quickly, but things will like be in a mode of constant starvation because of iatrogenic metabolic issues and poor liver function, not having enough like vitamin and nutrient stores, and like my body surviving off of what I literally just ate, and different things like that go along with the health issues. So technically, I mean, for me to gain weight, my health would have to get better anyways, but if I'm not able to, I wouldn't live till even almost 38 anyhow, to even worry about that. Although, of course, like, being underdeveloped and being severely underweight are still two different things. So, I mean, they can go hand in hand, and it's like both of those things at the same time when it comes to like the physical side, but still, like, me actually being able to gain weight still wouldn't be me like physically developing. But I don't know, it's just like a scary thought. Then as far as the mental side, like, I've been thinking about making a video about how I recently realized that lava lamps aren't vibrators. Like, for a long time, or really like for my whole life until very recently, I thought that lava lamps were vibrators, because like when I would go in the mall, at least when I was younger, and I would go to, I guess maybe it was Hot Topic, I can't really remember, I would see the lava lamps and like they would be near like all the scary stuff, and so like I just assumed that like lava lamps or vibrators. And like when I would be watching a movie, like I think it was on the movie not Spy Kids, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, which was definitely like had a lot of hidden meanings about the prophetic boy. But anywho, I like that movie though. But anyhow, I think it was that movie where like he had a lava lamp. And I remember like watching that and being like, oh my gosh, he has a lava lamp at like 7. And I recently realized that like that's not what that is. Then like for a long time, I don't know why, I thought that like water towers were like where radio people did their jobs. So like I thought that like they climbed up to the top of the water tower and like that's where they would broadcast the radio from. I don't know why I thought that, it just made sense. But that's like not like a recent realization that that's not the reality. As like the lava lamp thing. The lava lamp thing is very, very recent, unfortunately. And so like that, and then a side thing, which is like I mentioned in the last video about like the good thing about escaping abuse, but also like I talk about how, I don't know, just a couple different things that probably aren't necessarily good things, but they're realities. And I mentioned that like I'm wondering, especially due to the fact that like when you're a street kid, people assume a lot more, they expect a lot more out of you when it comes to materialistic bullcrap. And so it's like, now I just think about like finally having a boyfriend maybe one day and just wanting to play like Minecraft and wanting someone to play Minecraft with me. But it's like, is that also like being developmentally delayed, or is that like just me finally actually being able to focus on or think about things that I should be able to think about, or maybe should have been? Because also my birthday coming up, that's another part of the midlife crisis, or at least it as of recently or the past few months it has been. And it's like, I don't know though. And I think this is all a part of the whole thing that like there's no such thing as being a kid really, when like literally from the moment that you're born pretty much you're always being told that you're childish, you need to grow up. And there's also another side as well, even with a recent situation with this sexual predator dude that I had a run-in with as usual. Although I haven't seen him again since then, I don't think. But I don't really remember faces, so I don't know. But I don't think I have. But like, he went on this little rant about how people come to America to marry younger people, and how like some Muslim dude had told him that the 16-year-old that he was walking with was his wife, and how he was like, I can respect that. Because of course people like to tell you, well, Marine Kingdom agents like to tell you who they are from the get-go. They don't really play games like people try to make it seem. But I'm not going to go into that. But anywho, he was talking to me, and when I finally did respond to him, he was like, why do you sound like that? You sound like a child. And it's like, it's just like how like sexual predators, so it's like they go for younger people who like it depends on if they really like have paraphilias and they're really attracted to younger people. Because like some of them, they just want to get with whoever they can get with. Others just want to get with whoever they think that they can manipulate or like use. So it's a couple different reasons behind that. It's not even always the paraphilia side, but either way, like they want to get with somebody who's way too young for them, but then they want to like tell the person you're childish. Like I seen somebody mention the situation that they were in recently that was like, the dude was like, you're a little too childish for me, and she was like or is like 13 or something like that. And the dude was, I don't know how old he was, probably 50. But also a girl I knew like a couple years ago, she was in this type of cycle of chasing chomos for like attention and all that stuff, and like due to sexual addiction and the different things that go along with that. And she was 14, I think. Maybe younger, I don't even really remember. And she told me that like one dude was like doing all types of stuff with her. And then she came to me crying one day, and she was like, he broke up with me. And I was like, why'd he break up with you? And she was like, it was because he said it was because I'm childish. And I was like what in the world? And it's like he shouldn't even be with you, abusing you and all that stuff anyways, and then he broke up with you because he said that you're childish. And it's like, I don't know what they really expect, but I don't like the childish term anyways. It's like, it revolves around a lot of ages, and like people have this idea of like what young people are supposed to be like, and that's not everybody. And it's like most people, they like stay that way like their whole life, like gossiping and different things like that aren't even like, I don't know, I just hate the ageist tropes. But I talk about that in my playlist about or titled, I think, Ageism and Cataclysmic Repositioning. How like all the ageist tropes are made by chomos and they were pushed through media, and most of them revolve around like demographics that most people don't fit anyways. Like the whole rock star, depressed, you're ruining my life type kid. Like that stuff is like very much stereotypes that are programmed into people and made up by chomos. But either way, like, I don't know. It's just all really scary. And then it's still like, I don't even know though. Like, am I focusing on things that I should be? But then it's like I know that I'm still developmentally delayed. That did not come out right, I don't think, but I'm going to keep going. And also that, like, I still understand a lot more than most people do. Like, I don't know. The only person I ever really identified with was LT Corbiz, but I'm not really going to go into that. But a couple other people as well now, like, even that Teezandos clip that I put into my video about how nobody cares about anybody, where she was like, no, I'm tired of all this fake stuff. Nobody really gives a F about anybody. And it's like, that's really the reality. People hate real people, but that's not what I was supposed to be getting at, though. I think I was getting at the fact that, like, I know that I can't connect on the level with, like, most. But I don't know, though, because another thing about it is that, like, I always felt like throughout my entire life that the only reason that, like, I really did well or do well with, like, people that are way older than me is because, like, some of them are gonna, like, well, this really depends on the person, but, like, they're gonna try to be more nicer to me, some of them, and not, like, say things like, oh, you're weird and stuff like that. But also, what else is it? Also, like, the fact that, as I realized by the time I was 7 or whatever, like, when it comes to MPDs and stuff, like, often a lot of us are going to act different around different people, but then when it comes to older people, like, for example, because this isn't coming out how I wanted to, if you're, like, hypersexual and all that stuff, sometimes, if you can control it, because I typically fall in love with, like, well, definitely not everybody I meet, but, like, older people who are nice to me, some of them. It really depends, but if you're, like, hypersexual or whatever, you already know that, like, since the person's older, you're probably gonna have to, like, mask that and, like, do chameleon effect and hide that anyway. So it's like things seem to go better because you have to, like, hide things about yourself anyways. In fact, no. But some older people, I typically feel like I have to hide stuff even more because, like, they're gonna think I'm weird if I do this and then that whatever in the world, because it's not coming out how I wanted to. So it's kind of like, I don't know, just more reasons why, like, I don't really talk to people anyways. Kind of, though, because I'm more so, like, in isolating situations all the time, but still, I did mostly stop talking to people years ago. But it wasn't much of a choice, and it still kind of isn't. But it's kind of whatever anyways. And then another side of that is, I don't know, though. It's like, I still just can't really believe that people around here really think that I'm, like, 38, 40 years old. Like, the only time I had somebody accuse me of, like, secretly being in my 30s was when this dude was, I was supposed to ride the bus free in one place, supposedly, as somebody told me. But also, like, people knew that, like, all the quote-unquote black people there dumped out foster kids that are not from there, and they go there to, like, be homeless or whatever. So, like, people already knew I wasn't from there anyway. They thought I was from Mexico, actually. So, like, the bus driver already kind of knew that I probably like wasn't from there, and I guess he could tell I was homeless because of homeless energy, and so he like knew that I probably wasn't in high school, even though I was high school age. But it's a lot of stuff with that. But I was told I was supposed to ride the bus free, to make a long story short. And then when I told the bus driver like how old I was and all that, he was like, "You're probably secretly 30 and all that stuff." And it's like, but it's so weird though, because it's like in a place where like there's plenty of homeless kids and homeless 14-year-olds and 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, etc. running around. It's like, because it was a college town as well. So like students in general, they rode free, but it's like, it's a lot of stuff with that. And that's why I told the lady that like I didn't even want to like even talk to the bus driver about it when I didn't have any money. But yeah, that's the only time I ever got accused of being in my 30s since like before coming to the South. But it is really interesting though that like, especially quote unquote black people or just like Southern people as well, they just expect me to like be way older than I am. But it's kind of like, well, do they think that I'm like a really developmentally delayed 38-year-old or 40-year-old? And then it's like, but will I still be this way by then? But I guess maybe people will just feel like it's a stupid like fear to even have. But it's like, I mean, I don't know, it just really makes me think. Actually, something else I could add in. It also makes me think about this other thing where like when I got stuck in Birmingham, Alabama for those 2 weeks, and some lady asked me about how old I was, and I just hurried up and told her that I was 18. And cause like, I mean, you're made to feel like saying that to people is like the way to like get people out of your business, but that's really not true. Ageism and stuff doesn't stop until you're 40 or at least like 30 or 30 something. But also there still is a reality that like some people are still gonna feel like, I mean, you really shouldn't be out here, which I mean, it's understandable. I get why people will say that, but I also want to make the point that like, I even always say, tell people that you're the oldest age that people will believe. So like, if you can tell people that you're 25, tell them that. And I mean, a lot of 12-year-olds could pass for like 21 or something, but it really depends though. But the whole just saying whatever age, it doesn't always work. But anywho, like I told this lady I was 18, and then she was like, well, that still doesn't mean that you should be out here. In fact, no, I remember now. She was like, you don't even look like you should be out here. And I was like, I'm 18. And then she was like, well, that still doesn't mean that you should be out here. In fact, I remember like just like back when I was in NY, I told this dude that, and like I thought that it would like help like get rid of like his paranoia, well, not really paranoia, but like worries or whatever. And then he was just like, what the F? Which was very interesting because there was a youth shelter on there, but I mean, most people in there were like in their 20s, like mid-20s still, but I mean, there are plenty of people there that have been homeless since 14 and stuff in NY. That's another one of those heavy street kid places and homeless youth places. But anyhow, he was like, what the F? I thought you were way older than that. I thought you were at least like 27 or 28. And he was like, I don't even think I should be talking to an 18-year-old. And I was like, well, I mean, I didn't even think it was like that. It's kind of funny, though, because it's like, that's another thing to it as well. Like, some people will be like, oh, well, especially if you're 16 plus, you just need to, like, get a job, or if that doesn't work out, you need to go home if you can't take care of yourself. But then another person will be like, yeah, you shouldn't be out here, or something like that. He was like, you mean to tell me you don't have any family that you can go stay with? And it's like, but then it's like some people will be like, oh, if you're 18 or you're 17, be an adult and figure it out. People will be like that. But it depends on the person, though, like where you're at especially. Like if you're in a place like San Jose, Silicon Valley, you may have somebody tell you something like, oh, well, you have no excuse because I made my first $500,000 by the time I was 15, something like that. Like different things or different like ideas like this really revolve around like the demographic you're in and like the culture of the people you're around. Like, what was I gonna say with that? Like, for example, I know in my last video, I think it was, I have this screenshot from this one boy telling me that he respects, no, well, he told me a couple things. Some of it I didn't put in, but like, he told me that like he has respect for me and what I did because he still lives with his mom and leeches off of his mom. But it's like, he doesn't live in America, he lives in France, but it's still kind of like, in America especially, we're already known to have this individualistic culture where like people don't really give a crap about the next person. And so people, I don't know, I don't even know how else to put it. Like, people used to be cultural. Kids didn't like move out until they got married, especially like the girls, but in general until they got married. And like, it still wasn't even that long ago where like people were getting married to move out their house, and they were getting married by 14, working in factories, dropping out of high school to work in factories, getting their first car and house and stuff. But I mean, ageist laws and adultism has screwed all that up anyways over the years. But it's still like, now people are really individualistic, and it's like it just goes back to the whole thing, there's no such thing as like a kid or whatever, or an adult still. And then what else was I gonna say with that? But oh yeah, like the idea that like having parents and family, like actually having one that actually is safe and healthy, and being able to live with your family and your parents as you should be, like now that's kind of like seen as like an insult, or not an insult, like it's seen as like a bad thing, like it's seen as like you're lazy or something like that, or whatever in the world. And it's like really interesting. But due to all the things that are going on and the agendas that are being pushed and the dollar falling and all that, people are going to have to like start living together and living with their families again anyways. Which, I mean, a lot of people, they never end up escaping their abusive family systems regardless. But still, my situation is different though. Like, I had to escape. And some people, they have to like get kicked out, or I guess have to. But like, still, I didn't even get kicked out. I actually had to like escape the cash for kids system, my family system. So still wait a minute, that didn't come out how I wanted to, but it's still different. It's different than like I don't know, like wanting to leave. Like, most people, they don't have a choice, so I still just don't see how it's all that similar. And then this boy was like pretty much like I'm intimidating to him because like I go out and I try to do things and I try to like get jobs and stuff like that. And it did make me think though, kind of made me think about something that this dude had said to me a few months ago, where he was like, you've been doing a good job taking care of yourself. But it's kind of funny though, because some people feel like just because like I'm in what they view as like a not ideal or bad situation, that I'm not taking care of myself, or I need to do what I'm supposed to do and like do better or something like that. Or other people will say I need to like go back home, quote unquote, and because I can't take care of myself for different things like that. But it's kind of like, what does all that stuff even really mean when it comes to like quote unquote taking care of yourself and doing what you're quote unquote supposed to do? It's all like matrix standards, and like things take time. And then it's also like it's just all really weird. Like even when you can't do certain things, people still expect you to like do them when you can't. If that even makes sense. I mean, I guess it probably won't, because it's like leaving out a lot of details and pretty vague, but I don't know. It's all just weird. People are just weird. And people are controlling as well, because they know that really they don't have control over their life, and they really can't reach the goal that they want to reach. So they want to try to control you and tell you about what they think you should and should have and should not do and have done. And then it's a lot of accusations as well. Just like how I go over the whole one bad decision stereotype in my last video. And it's like most people aren't even old enough to make that stereotypical one bad decision that didn't happen anyways. I don't like that whole one bad decision trope, I guess. And then I think that's it. Maybe.